Ever had that feeling? That nagging sense you've taken a wrong turn somewhere in life? That everything you were supposed to be, everything you were meant to do, is just slipping through your fingers? You feel like you've made too many mistakes, maybe given up a little too soon, and there's a quiet worry that settles in. What if I've messed it all up? But here's something you might not have considered. What if this whole idea of failure isn't what you think it is? What if ancient wisdom sees it differently? Not as a judgment, but as something else entirely. Something kinder. And once you understand this, you'll never look at your own path the same way again. The truth about taking a wrong turn might be the most freeing thing you'll ever hear. Let's be honest. This is the feeling that can keep you up at night, right? It's not about what comes after life. It's about this one. The nagging thought. Am I wasting my time here? Did I miss my calling? So many people carry this heavy weight. They're sure they've strayed too far from their path, made too many wrong choices, missed the turn. It feels like a kind of spiritual dead end. And at first glance, it makes sense to think that if you go off your path, there must be a consequence, a kind of cosmic penalty. But if you observe life deeply, you see something else. A wisdom written in the way things grow, the way water flows. And what nature shows us about failure is not at all what we've been taught to fear. If you feel like your journey has been a series of mistakes, this shift in thinking is for you. Join our community to explore this path together. Subscribe and let's find our way forward. So, here's the first interesting thought. What if you can't actually fail? Now, that might sound strange, so stay with me for a moment. From a much wider perspective, failure as we know it simply doesn't exist. Let me give you an example. A woman felt her whole life that her path was to be a mother. It was a deep knowing, but it never happened. Life took a different course, and by 50, she felt she had completely failed. A waste. But a wise person might look and say this: before your journey began, there wasn't just one path. Think of it like a river splitting into 3 streams. Mother was one, teacher was another, healer was the third. When the path to being a mother became blocked by a great rock, the river of your life simply flowed into the teacher stream. You've been teaching for 20 years. You've cared for hundreds of children. There's no failure here, just a different route to the same ocean. Look, the journey of life doesn't see detours as mistakes. It sees them as explorations. Every wrong turn shows you a new piece of the landscape. What you call failure, a deeper wisdom calls experience. It's not grading you, it's simply living through you. My path is my purpose. Say that to yourself. And if it feels right, type, "My path is my purpose," in the comments to set your own intention today. When we observe life, we see 3 main ways a journey seems to go wrong. But each one is actually something else in disguise. The first is the path that bends. Sometimes, what looks like failure is just your life adapting to things you couldn't see coming. You see, the paths of others cross our own, and everything shifts. A man was convinced his path was to become a doctor. He felt it from a young age. But life happened. His family needed him, and the dream became impossible. At 60, working in a factory, he felt the deep sting of being a failure. But think about it this way: his true path was never the title doctor. It was the action to heal. As a foreman, his focus on safety kept his co-workers from harm. His daily kindness soothed worries better than any medicine. His path didn't end. It just changed its shape to fit the world he was in. His journey was always about healing. He just didn't see it because it didn't wear a white coat. This is so important. Our true purpose is about the heart of what we do, not the outer form. If one trail closes, the river of life will find another way to flow. The second is the seed that waits. Some people feel they failed because their real work was meant to begin later in life. But they measure themselves by everyone else's timeline. A woman reached 70 and was filled with regret. She'd always believed she was meant to write something important. But life, it just got in the way. Marriage, kids, work. Now it's too late, she thought. But an ancient wisdom might say this: your purpose was never to write when you were young. When you were young, you had fire, but not much wisdom. In middle age, you had knowledge, but not a wide view. Now you have all three. Your real season begins now. The last 70 years weren't wasted. They were just preparing the soil. You had to live the story before you could write it. And how many of us think we've failed our journey, when really its most important season hasn't even begun. And the third, this one is interesting to think about. It's the path of learning to fall. Some journeys are not about reaching a destination. They're about mastering the art of the journey itself. They're about learning to handle things not working out, things feeling incomplete. Think about a young person gifted and bright, but everything they try seems to fall apart. Business, relationships, dreams all crumble. By 35, they feel like they are just cursed to fail. But here's another way to look at it. What if in the past, everything came too easily? Maybe you never learned what it feels like to struggle. So in this chapter of life, the real purpose is simply to fall down, to understand limits, to grow compassion for yourself and others who stumble. So your falling isn't a detour from your path. The falling is the path. This time of stumbling is preparing you to one day help others get back up, because you will truly know how it feels. So, what happens when a life truly ends and it feels like things were left undone? The wisdom here is beautiful. Imagine you can look back over your entire life, but from a calm, mountaintop view. And from there, you wouldn't feel judgment for the times you stumbled. Not at all. You'd feel a gentle, loving recognition. You'd suddenly see how that painful breakup taught you what it means to be whole on your own. You'd see how losing that job taught you that your value isn't in your title. Every failure would be revealed as a lesson in strength. The things you called your greatest mistakes would look like your greatest victories. But here is the most important part. When a journey ends unfinished, the story isn't over. Think of it like passing a torch. The desire to do good doesn't just vanish. A man might have spent his life trying to build a place of healing, but never did. He might pass away feeling he failed. But that burning desire, that intention, he passes it to his child, and the child feels a sudden urge to build a clinic. That feeling isn't just their own, it's the torch being passed. The journey is completed through them. The love finds a way. The healing gets done. It just continues through another traveler on the path. Here's a truth that's often missed. Your life is not a single, narrow trail. It's more like a vast garden. You might have a main goal, like growing a huge oak tree, but along the way, you're also growing flowers of patience, herbs of kindness, and vines of forgiveness. If the oak tree doesn't grow as tall as you'd hoped, but your garden is full of life and beauty, is that a failure? No. Sometimes we get so focused on what we think is the one and only purpose, we don't realize we're succeeding at a dozen other beautiful things all along the way. Now, this is a deep one. Some ancient teachings suggest that certain people actually choose difficult paths as a gift to the rest of us. They walk a path of visible failure, so we can learn by watching. They show us how to stumble with grace. They model what it means to be imperfect, so the rest of us don't have to live in fear of it. Think of the person who tries their whole life to achieve something great and never does. They die thinking they wasted their life. But their real purpose wasn't to get to the destination. It was to inspire the 5 people walking behind them who were watching. Those 5 will get there because his struggle showed them which pitfalls to avoid. Some journeys are the experiments that make success possible for everyone else. That kind of failure is a very high form of service. So, what does all this really mean? From a calm, wise perspective, there's no such thing as a wrong choice or a wasted life. There is only experience, and learning, and growing. That relationship that ended, you were learning about loving yourself. That career that didn't work out, you were learning that you are more than your job. Every so-called failure is just a deep lesson. And you can't fail a class you're still taking. An old shopkeeper on his deathbed once worried he had failed. He'd wanted to be a priest, to serve something divine. Instead, he just served customers. But a wise friend told him, "Every fair price you gave was a sermon. Every moment of kindness was a prayer. You didn't fail to become a holy man. You succeeded in being one, just in your own way." Here is the ultimate truth of the journey. The only way to truly fail is to stop moving, to stop growing. As long as you are learning, asking questions, evolving, even if it's through 1,000 stumbles, you are on your path. A tree's success isn't measured by whether it reaches the sky. It's measured by its growth. Did you become a little bit more than you were yesterday? Did you try to be kind even when you were hurt? Did you get up one more time than you fell down? Then you haven't failed. You are succeeding in ways your mind can't even measure yet. So, if you are reading this and you're worried you failed your life's journey, here's what the wisdom of the ages wants you to know. You haven't failed. Your path just bent in a new direction. You haven't wasted time. You've been learning and gathering wisdom. You haven't missed your purpose. You've been living it in a language you just didn't recognize. The artist who becomes a loving parent, the healer who works in an office. These aren't failures. They are translations. The same beautiful song, just played on a different instrument. If you've been carrying this heavy story of failure, maybe it's time to gently set it down. A deeper wisdom doesn't see what you see. It sees your courage to try. It sees the strength you've gained in the struggle. Tell someone you know who feels they've failed that their path might just look different than they expected. And when we start to see our stumbles as lessons, we free ourselves to keep walking. If you're ready to continue this journey of inner clarity, subscribe. This is just the beginning. The most profound realization is this: often, the people who feel they have failed the most are the bravest travelers. It takes far more courage to walk an uncertain path than one with a guaranteed end. It takes more strength to appear vulnerable than to always look strong. These are not the dropouts of life. They are advanced students taking the hardest classes. They are the ones brave enough to be beautifully imperfect. Your failures are not stains. They are badges of honor. They prove you were brave enough to try. Evidence that you chose growth over safety. So if you are worried about failing, remember this: the only true failure would have been to never start the journey at all. And you are here. You are asking. You are seeking. You are not failing. You are growing. You just can't see the rings inside the trunk of your tree yet. But they are there. And they tell a beautiful story of your journey.